All right, let's dive into the science of human connection, and more specifically, that super frustrating gap between our good intentions and how other people actually see us.
So, have you ever been there? You think you're being warm, you think you're being open, but people are reacting to you like you're kind of distant or maybe even unapproachable. Maybe you're just a little shy or you're lost in thought, but the vibe you're putting out there, it just doesn't match who you are on the inside. Yeah, that feeling? It's incredibly common, and it's right at the heart of what we're digging into today. There's actually a name for this. Psychologists call it the intent-impact gap. And it's exactly what it sounds like. That tricky space where what you mean to say gets totally lost in translation. You intend to be friendly, but the impact you have is that others see you as closed off. This gap, well, that's where all the misunderstandings are born. And that's what we're going to learn how to bridge.
So first up, let's really break down this intent-impact gap. Why do our internal feelings sometimes just fail to show up on the outside?
Okay, so here's the most important thing to get right away. Communication is so much more than just the words you say. Our bodies, our body language, are sending out these super powerful messages that often completely steamroll whatever we're actually saying. And when your words and your body are telling two different stories, guess which one people are going to believe? Yep, your body, every single time.
And what's really wild is how common these cues are, especially when we're nervous or just kind of shy. Avoiding eye contact might just be your anxiety talking, but to someone else, it screams, "I'm not interested." Crossing your arms? It can feel cozy and safe, but it looks really defensive. And that blank face you have when you're just deep in thought, it comes across as total boredom. These are the little unintentional signals that make that intent-impact gap a whole lot wider.
And this quote from researcher Michael Argyle just nails it. He highlights that eye contact isn't some small detail. It is literally the #1 way we build trust and a real link with another person, so when we don't use it, we're basically cutting off the main channel of connection before we've even said hello.
All right, next up, we're going to explore our most powerful nonverbal tool, which is silence, and we'll look at how it can be used to either build people up or tear them down.
This is such a critical distinction to make. On one side, you've got the silent treatment. We all know it. It's that passive-aggressive refusal to talk that's used as a weapon, as a punishment. It's designed to hurt. But on the other side, you've got strategic silence. This is a tool that confident, charismatic people use. It gives your words more weight, it commands attention, and it actually gives other people the space they need to think. One destroys connection, the other builds it.
So why does the silent treatment hurt so much? I mean, really, why is it so painful? It's because it taps right into our primal, deep-seated fear of social rejection. As humans, we are biologically wired with a fundamental need to belong to the tribe. And when we're deliberately ignored, our brains actually process that social pain in a very similar way to how they process real physical pain. It's a huge deal.
Okay, now for the really fun stuff, some fascinating psychology. In this section, we're going to cover a few counterintuitive rules that kind of flip our usual assumptions about what actually makes people like us.
Let me just ask you this. If you want to be more liked, should you try to project this image of being totally perfect and flawless? I think most of us, if we're honest, would say, yeah, probably. But the research tells a completely different and way more interesting story.
This is something called the pratfall effect, and it was first studied by the social psychologist Elliot Aronson. The core idea is this. For someone who is already seen as being really good at what they do, making a small mistake, a little pratfall, doesn't make them look less competent. No. Instead, it makes them seem more human, more approachable, and in the end, way more likable.
Aronson's original experiment laid this out perfectly. So he had people listen to a recording of a quiz show contestant. Now, the contestant who got almost all the questions right and then at the end audibly, clumsily spilled coffee all over himself, he was rated as the most likable person of the whole bunch. That little mistake just humanized his almost superhuman competence. Now, here's the catch, and it's a big one. For the average person in the study, making that same mistake actually made them less likable. So it's all about context.
And this isn't just some weird thing that happens in a lab. I mean, think about someone like Jennifer Lawrence. We all see her as this incredibly talented actor, right? But her famous, clumsy falls on the red carpet didn't hurt her career at all. In fact, they probably helped. They made her seem relatable and down to earth, and people loved her even more for it.
Now here's another totally backward idea, the Ben Franklin effect. The story goes that Ben Franklin wanted to win over a political rival, but instead of doing a favor for the guy, he asked the rival to do a favor for him. So why on earth would that work? Well, it's this thing called cognitive dissonance. The rival's brain has to deal with this conflict. Wait, I don't like this guy, but I just did something nice for him. The brain hates that contradiction, and it's often way easier to just change your attitude. You know what? Maybe he's not so bad after all, than it is to undo the action. Pretty clever, right?
Okay, so we've looked at the problem, we've looked at some of the weird psychology behind it all. In our final section, let's build your actual toolkit with some practical, real-world strategies. But first things first, let's bust a huge myth right now. Charisma is not magic. It is not something you're just born with. Research has shown again and again that it's just a set of identifiable, learnable behaviors. And that means anyone, and I mean anyone, can learn to be more charismatic.
So what are these learnable skills? Well, it pretty much boils down to three main pillars. First, presence. That just means being fully there, in the moment with someone. Second is emotional connection. That's about using empathy to make other people feel seen and understood. And third, communication. This is where we master all those verbal and nonverbal cues we've been talking about.
And learning these skills has a real measurable impact. This isn't just fluffy stuff. Research from Gallup shows that teams led by so-called charismatic leaders, people who have really mastered those three pillars, are way more engaged and more productive. So this isn't just about being liked, it's about being more effective in your life.
Okay, so here it is, a simple checklist to help you close that intent-impact gap, starting today. Try the triangle rule for eye contact, so it's less intense. Just look from eye to eye, then down to the mouth. Open up your posture, uncross those arms. Let your face actually show that you're listening. And remember, a genuine smile, what's called the Duchenne smile, the kind that makes your eyes crinkle, is one of the most powerful signals of warmth you have.
And if you ever for a second doubt how important that checklist is, just look at this number. According to Albert Mehrabian's groundbreaking research, more than half, 55% of the emotional meaning in a conversation is communicated through your body language. Your posture, your gestures, your face, they're doing most of the talking for you.
And at the end of the day, this is why it all matters so much. As the incredible researcher Brené Brown says, connection is why we're here. It's the whole point. These aren't just little social tricks, they're the fundamental skills we need to build the relationships that give our lives meaning.
So, I'll leave you with this question to think about. After everything we've looked at today, from your posture to how you use eye contact to your use of silence, what is one silent message that you are sending that you can consciously choose to change starting right now?